Well, I've come out for a lovely, easy 10-mile walk today. I'm not actually expecting to get much, certainly nothing spectacular, as I walk around this lovely reservoir in North Wales. But I thought I'd take the opportunity to talk about black and white film and developers and some of the choices you're faced with. So when you start out in black and white film photography, you get yourself a fairly standard, well-recommended film like HP5 Plus or Tri-X. And you go out and you shoot a roll and you're either disappointed or you're pleased. So the next stage in the film journey typically involves you having a look or browsing and finding out about other films. You start to think about maybe a slower grained film, finer detail. Maybe you don't like the grit and grain of the HP5 Plus and Tri-X. You start to read articles by people who tell you that you must be shooting with a certain film to get a certain look. You start to get intrigued by all these different film speeds, 1600, 3200. What about XP2? So many different films to try. So you start trying them. And you start trying them before you've really given the first film a go. You really are on that spiral now, going down that rabbit hole. And I'm sure many of you are familiar with this tale. So here we are, and I mean we, with your rapidly proliferating collection of pretty coloured little boxes, like sweets they are, all those nice colours and little logos, and all very tactile film is. So yes, you're sat there with your fridge or your freezer, rapidly filling up with these little boxes of delight. But that's not enough. Oh no, you start, sorry, I'm just looking at some scenery. I'll show you while I'm talking. You start to experiment with different developers. You read about all these fine-grained developers, these coarse developers, Rodinal. What about Diafine? And then you've got HC110, Perceptol, Microfen. You can go on and on and on, FX39. The numbers are just incredible. The amount of different formulas. And there's pyro and staining developers. And you start trying your multitude of films with all these different developers in different combinations of format and different cameras and different lenses, different types of subject matter. Sometimes you hit lucky, you hear people talking about, I use this particular film and this developer combination and my negatives glow. You know, I have highlights which I can print without dodging and burning. I have massive shadow detail, I have no grain, or I have the most amazing grain that you just can't emulate with digital. So yeah, I'm going to carry on now. You do get a bit giddy, a bit film and developer happy, and yes, your shelves are now filling up with things. So your fridge is full, your shelves are filling up, and you're wondering what to do next. You know, it's bizarre this. Somebody said the other day, why do we never see fishermen on all the lakes that us vloggers walk past? Well, unbelievably, I've come out today and there's absolutely loads of fishermen on the lakes that vloggers walk past. Yeah, thank you for that comment. I think you've prompted the fishermen to come out. Now the final nail in the coffin is that you've decided you don't have enough variables. You need to introduce something else, and that's your paper choice now. This can be inkjet for Lightroom and digital work, or it could be the darkroom. You start to play around with smooth papers, shiny papers, textured papers, cloth-like papers, canvas. I mess about with lith papers in my darkroom. I have different surfaces, different tones, different feel, different all sorts. I have so much metallic for printing on as well with my inkjet printer. So you now have a myriad of combinations, and it's a miracle you actually make any good photos at all. And so the fictional character in our story has now reached a pivotal moment, and I've reached a pivotal moment too, because I'm going to have something to eat and take in the views. But our film photographer is stuck in a position now where I don't envy them. They are keeping themselves awake at night, dreaming of combinations of film, developer and paper they've not yet tried, hoping that that will be the silver bullet which will deliver the impressive images every single time, guaranteed, you know, award-winning, super-duper prints. But also, they're looking back at some of their older work when they started doing film photography with those original films and simple developers. And they're starting to think, some of them look quite good. Do you know what? The tonality's not bad. I'm enjoying the look, the grain, the simplicity, and how much fun I had when I first started out on this journey. Have I lost everything? But you may still be at the point where you think to yourself, no, I've mastered this. I've now got a range of options available to me, which is second to none, and I can exploit every single condition to its best advantage. But then that little nagging doubt comes back, and you start to reevaluate everything. Now the final straw arrives when, actually I could do with some appropriate music here, when you go down to, or somebody, whoever this character is, goes down to their fridge or their darkroom, and they look at all their films and papers. And you start to look at the dates on some of them too and start to think, do you know what, that's out of date. Doesn't matter though, I'll store it in the freezer. Then they start to look at all their chemicals. They start to look at the expiry date. They start to look at the ones they've mixed up, like their ID11 and their, what do we think of, microfen, and their Perceptol. Not so much Rodinol and HC110, that'll last forever. And they start to think, do you know what, that chemical's gone off a bit by now. Will I trust it on my films? Will I develop my trusted shots in this chemical, which has gone off? I've got 5 litres of the stuff there, and I've hardly used more than a litre. And I've got about 5 or 6 others, taking up concertina bottles all over the place. Oh dear, what am I going to do? And then you realise you really do have to do something about this. Oh, and before anyone says you're missing loads of good shots there in all that B-roll, I am, you're right, I am missing good shots. I'm just on a nice long walk though, and plodding around a lake. Very good for your mental health, your exercise, your fitness. A bit of photography thrown in is always nice, but I am missing shots, so yeah, thanks for that one. Right then, while I take a well-deserved break and something nice and hot to eat, I would probably start to discuss some of the options this mythical person might have in terms of how they can simplify their black and white photography. Now, the first option is you could go totally nuclear and sell everything and just use one camera, one lens, one film and one developer. Now, whilst that has a certain appeal to me because of the simplicity, I just don't think I could do that. I just think I would revert back to multiple cameras, multiple films, etc. Much as I believed in my heart of hearts that would be the best approach, the one camera, one lens, one film, and to standardise everything and to just concentrate on taking images. But you know, I just do like experimenting with films, and I do like to have more than one option. I have more than one look in mind when I go out. It's not always super smooth and sharp or gritty and grainy. I do multiple types. So yeah, option one, just simplify it right down to one of everything. Now another option you could take, which is a little bit less extreme, is to go for the single film multiple developer approach. Now, if you take a film like HP5 Plus and you develop it in a standard developer like ID11 or HC110, you get a modestly grainy, pretty sharp image. But you can actually, just take a breather here, you can actually develop it in a fine-grained developer like Ilford's Perceptol. You lose a bit of speed, probably about one stop. A lot less grainy, a bit sharper, smoother, but obviously it's one stop less. And some people would argue that it's not quite as nice in terms of tonality. The other thing is you could take a film like a HP5 Plus and run it through microfen, one of the speed increasing developers. Run it at 800 or 1600, get a very sharp, very gritty, grainy look. So one film, multiple looks. Now that means you've just got to stock one particular film type, but you have got 3 chemicals in there. So that's a possibility. I have tried that in the past, it worked for a while, but again, I started to miss some of the characteristics of other films. Now that leads us to the opposite option, which is to have multiple films on a single developer. Now, here you may decide to use a 100 speed film, like a Delta 100 or a T-Max 100, a moderate speed film, HP5 Plus, T-Max 400, and a fast film, Delta 3200 and the like, and develop them all in the same chemical. So something like ID11, HC110, X-Tol, whatever, varying the time. So you are there leveraging the inherent capabilities of the film, because it's true that a 400 speed film has less grain than a 3200 speed film. It's also true that a 100 speed film is less grainy than a 400. And whilst you can bend and manipulate the grain of each film, there are certain things you cannot do. You know, you are limited ultimately by the grain structure of that film. There's only so far you can go. So that would give you the flexibility to shoot with different films for different situations, but use just one chemical, which means you could mix a big batch up, maybe 5 litres, and get away with using it over a period of, say, 3 to 6 months before it expires. So fairly economical and gives you plenty of flexibility. So, what is the answer to the problem of multiple films and multiple developers and black and white choice? Well, there's no single answer. I'll be honest, if you've got plenty of time and you are shooting a lot of film, you know, you can probably master numerous films, numerous developers. I just don't have that time. But equally, one film, one developer is not for me at the moment. So I'm going to try and cut down the amount of developers I have to stop chemicals going off, and also limit the number of films. Obviously your mileage will vary. Oh, and as to what film and what developer I'm shooting with today, you know, it doesn't really matter. It's all about the images. So anyway, hope you enjoyed my 10-mile yomp around this lake and a bit of a discussion about what I'm doing and what you might think about doing too. And I'll see you again soon. Thanks for watching.